Well, there's no reason to change any course because I think that I'm on the Education Committee, Transportation and Military, and then Chairman of Judicial Rules and Administration. And so we really vet a lot of bills, and I don't see any reason to change that direction of what of the voting is for the constituents, not for any one group of people or select group of people. And I think that's where some of the issues seem to be arising is from not voting for the way that an organization wants you to vote. I vote for what I feel that the people want.
And that district that you represent, fairly conservative district. So when you got two people who are fairly conservative running in a primary, I guess the whoever comes out ahead of this in the primary on May 17th is pretty much, this is a re-election really for you if you come out at number one on May 17th.
Well, there's still a Democrat that you have to face, but that really is not a significant portion of the vote. It really is a Republican vote. So yes, definitely the one at the primary is probably going to carry the
Now, as I
the
understand
vote.
it, you were one of the three votes among Republicans, and there was all of your friends on Facebook the other day were defending you about this. I saw this over the weekend. Uh, you were concerned with that was it SB 1389, which was the concealed carry bill, because of the lack of a training provision within it.
And that was really one of, well, there's two reasons that I stood up on that one that really is different than anything I've followed for many years. Um, the majority of the Republicans with votes. This one really bothered me because it was labeled, I think, the wrong thing, in my opinion. It was labeled a concealed weapons permit was labeled a Second Amendment right, but we already have the Second Amendment right here. It's not an issue for the Second Amendment as far as I'm concerned because we can always carry a weapon. That's never been an issue since statehood. This particular one was about concealed weapons in cities, and I tell you from the voice of the people that I got many more responses to not vote for that bill than I did to vote for it. This was probably one of the toughest bills I've ever opposed from the standpoint that it was a people's voice that needed to be heard. On top of that, I also from a personal standpoint of personal safety and public safety, I've spent my entire career being a servant of the people
Mm-hmm.
for in law enforcement to protect their property and their lives. And I see this as one of those issues that has a great potential to really cause some innocent victims or bystanders to get injured. When you start opening up the door and say anybody could carry a weapon in a city, in a town, all of a sudden you have completely changed the dynamics of what takes place in situations such as a domestic. I'll use this as an example, a domestic dispute. You have one downtown at the theater or in a restaurant or somewhere else. Now, how many people are going to come to the aid when one of those people gets moves to the point of having violent issues and pulls out a gun? How many other people are going to do that, and how many people are innocently going to get injured or possibly even die because of shots or gunshots? And when the officers arrive, how are they going to know the good person from the wrong person when they see three or four people with guns? So I just think that the potential there is extremely grave, that we have to be very, very careful. There's a dangerous situation there. If you go down to Jackpot and you forget that you have a concealed weapon, you no longer have a permit or anything. What's going to happen when you cross the state border, or if you go down to Ontario, Oregon, and so on? I just see this as being it needed more work before it was vetted, and I just see this as being a potential for a lot of harm to
We've got a few
people.
more minutes. We have to take a short break, but we have State Representative Rich Wills in studio with us, spending a little time with us, talking a little bit about the state government. And we've got a couple of other positive things coming up too. In a few minutes, we'll just ask you about the size of the district and some of the fact you represent a lot of what we call a variety, I guess is a good way to put that. That's on the way in just a few minutes. Bill Colley with you as well on Top Story on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. Rich Wills is a state representative joining us, traveled in from the Glens Ferry area this morning. First of all, this district, we should point out, is geographically, you're representing an area that you run all the way down to Twin Falls and all the way back up toward the Mountain Home area. Uh, there's a lot of territory to cover in that, and what people are looking at in Twin Falls isn't necessarily what they're looking at in Mountain Home. And how do you juggle all of those different concerns?
This is really, and you're absolutely spot on of what the geographic area is. We have most of rural Idaho. I mean, Idahoans are mostly rural in our area, with the exception of Mountain Home.
Hmm.
Other than that, everything is our small towns: Castle Ford, Homedale, Marsing. I mean, we go clear over to the Oregon border, um, all of Hawaii County, all of Elmore County, clear up to Atlanta, which is a small Atlanta, Pine, Featherville, all of those areas. So yes, it's you're dealing with different interests because you go to the mountains, you're dealing with logging, you're dealing with mining, you're dealing with other issues. You come down and you have the farming and the ranching. You also have the commercial issues that you have to deal with, the economic issues and so on in a large town like Mountain Home. Those are all significant issues. So yes, you actually are bouncing around from different emotional issues that people are genuinely concerned about,
It's
and that's
8:35.
tough.
8:35. Rich Wills, our studio guest, here for a few more minutes with us. You're listening to News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. Bill Colley with you on Top Story. We have a telephone caller. Caller, you're on the air with the state representative.
Yes, Mr. Wills, how are you doing today?
Just great. Thank you very much, sir.
I am having trouble figuring out if you represent me or not. I live in the area north of Buell.
Yes, I probably do. North of Buell, all the way to the Stink River. We
And
definitely do.
then, what is your position in relation to Mr. Nielsen?
Well, my position
Same
is
or
in regards to what are you referring to?
as far as what I've not ever been able to figure out how Idaho's set up, so I'm just trying to figure out how to pose my question to you. But
He's referring to A and B, right? Of the fact that you've got
Yes,
two reps from
two representatives and one senator from each district.
okay. Anyway, my understanding of this 1389 that passed was that 1389 was for Idaho and strictly for Idaho, and that the enhanced permit process was to cover the concealed carry for other states. So the only way we're going to be in trouble is if we get rid of the enhanced program.
Well, even if you get rid of the enhanced program, you're still going to have an issue if you go across the state line because they're not going to recognize that anyone can carry a concealed weapon.
I want to let him get one last quick note in here. Go ahead, sir.
No, what I'm saying is if we don't get rid of the enhanced program, then there's not an issue. I can get an enhanced carry permit, and then I can go to wherever the enhanced carry permit is covered.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
1389 does not create an issue for that. It only deals with Idaho.
That's absolutely correct. You can still get the enhanced carry. There's no question about it. How many people will do that? I don't know, but that's my concern is that not very many understand that.
And that's one thing that we have to make clear because I think this was so confusing to people in the beginning. And you have people who are on the gun rights side who actually were opposed to this bill because of that reciprocity issue.
Exactly. That's absolutely correct.
We've got only about 2 minutes to go here, and before we wrap up, I know that you have to do this every couple of years when you're running for office. When you're meeting people at various meetings and visiting people in the various towns in the district, when they come to you and say, "Why should I give you another 2 years?" This might be a little too much in 2 minutes, but what do you tell them?
Well, I just tell them that I think the experience is invaluable. I think that institutional knowledge is very valuable. I think that it's those things in and of itself really makes you recognize that in order to make the system work, you really have to understand the system. And after that many years, you truly do understand the system and how it works. It doesn't mean you're going to be completely successful. I will say this, on almost any vote, you're going to have any given day, you're going to have a certain amount of the people that definitely are opposed to it, and the next day they like the way you voted. So it goes back and forth because you're trying to balance those scales with everyone and all of the constituents, and that's not easy to do. Um, I think Eleanor Roosevelt said it the best. If I could quote her just for a moment, she says, "Do what your heart tells you to do, because you're going to be challenged anyway."
I was going to say, have you ever met anybody that you said, "I agree with you 100% of what you do"?
No, I don't think that's ever going to happen, and I don't think that's realistic to believe.
And a lot of folks out there, of course, who was the last caller. Just quick question: you brought up, the way the district is drawn and how this works in Idaho. Is there a place where people could go? I mean, are you on the web or anywhere where they could look at your campaign?
I am on the website. I also have, and I want to give my phone number out, my cell number, because I'm always available, and that number year round, and that number is 484-0403. and I'm always willing to come and talk to you. I'll travel. We can visit over the phone, but I try to do it in person. And I'll tell you the reason is because we miss so much communication by the new means that we have of communicating today.
I'd say we experienced a little bit of that ourselves over the last couple of weeks.
Exactly.
Well, hey, I'd like to thank you. It was a long drive coming down today and all of that. But we got a couple of good diners you could hit on the way out of town, and you'll probably run into someone there who wants to talk a little politics too as well.
I'm sure I will. Thank you very much for the opportunity,
All right.
Bill. I really appreciate it.
All right, take care, sir. Rich Wills joining us in studio. Randy Staples from Idaho Weekly Briefing is on in just a couple of minutes. That's just ahead on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com.